Welcome back to the Behind the Well Show. I'm your host, Roger Abel, joined in studio by the decorated Elias Randall, or as Doug would call you, the new sheriff in town.
Why am I decorated?
You're just, you're like all-world referee.
All world,
yeah,
huh?
just accolades coming down left and right. Getting ready to go do your big hunting season here.
Yep.
Get the big buck this year.
Yep. Yeah. Best deer hunter that hunts in between Mount Vernon and Solon.
There's a lot of good deer hunters in between those two places, my friend.
First season shotgun. Yeah, I doubt him up. I doubt him up for that award this year.
I know who hunts by you. I know some of your neighbors, and they're really good hunters.
I would hope they're better than me.
Yeah.
It's only my 4th year going, so
there's a couple hammers over there.
It's pretty easy to be better than me at it.
It's always fun, though. It's an Iowa tradition, too. I mean, you know, this is probably the biggest hunting weekend in Iowa, and it's actually a time when families get together and gather. It's really more of a gathering, I think, than it is, like, just hunting. I mean, you guys are going to walk around the woods a little bit, but then you're going to drink beers, smoke cigars, have a bunch of food that's bad for you, right? Tell stories.
We might play some cards, too. We'll see what happens.
Do you go home, or do you stay? Do they have, like, a deer camp you stay at?
I'll spend the night for the weekend, and then I'll start going home Sunday night.
Okay.
So then I'll just wake up and go to deer hunting instead of going to work.
I mean, I do it too, so I think it's great.
It is great. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I spent, I don't know what, 9 or 10 days with a group of guys this year. It was really fun, relaxing, enjoyable time.
Good.
So
good.
I don't know. It makes me think about early retirement. We're going to talk about early retirement for people, but you know, we've talked a lot in this show about how to prepare for retirement and things that you should do ahead of time and have an idea of how you're going to spend your time in retirement. But something that some people aren't able to avoid is what actually happens if early retirement comes as a surprise and not because you want it to. You know, I teach that Passport to Retirement course, and in that course, there's a slide that talks a little bit about expected retirement ages and when people actually retire. And about a third of the people said they would either never retire or work until they're 70. In reality, only about 6% of the people actually do that. And a much larger percentage of people retire on or before age 60 than they expected to.
What's the surprise? Is it physical stuff? Is it being offered a severance package? What is the surprise?
The surprise is, hey, your job's being eliminated, or here's a package to walk away. I mean,
We've seen that recently.
I've seen it all the time. I mean, even my dad, 62 years old, taught at a college for 40 years. They offered him a package, a really good package to retire. He had every intention to work until he was 70. He told me that. I always thought I'd work here until I'm 70. And we had the family conversation. Well, mom's 4 years older. If you work here till you're 70, you know, what kind of retirement is that for mom? So I think what happens is people get a little bit older, and then they start to actually visualize what retirement looks like. And they're like, man, do I really want to work until I'm 70? And then can I do it now?
Can I retire now?
Yeah. Can I retire at 62 or 61 or whatever age instead of 70? So I'll flip this on you. What are you, 36, 38?
36.
You're 36. So I'm going to venture to guess, because when I was 36, no part of me ever thought about what retirement actually looked like. I wasn't really paying attention to like how people aged all that much. Is that the world you're in? Like, exclude like the people you work with.
Because I hang out with retired people all the time.
But I mean, personally, how much time do you actually spend thinking about your own retirement?
Beyond just
the money part.
Beyond putting the money away? No. I mean, if I didn't have to work, I know what I would spend my time doing, which I would continue reffing football. I'd probably just ref more sports because it's a fun activity. I can make some money doing it. But beyond that, no, no consideration of what I would do. And I'm sure there are other things I would like to do. Like I help coach my daughter's basketball team, and she's not going to be playing little kid basketball, but maybe I would still want to give back some time and be involved as a coach somehow, or maybe volunteer somewhere. But no, I don't think about it a whole lot.
So I'm 10
I
years
picture
older.
myself deer hunting too, but you can only do that once a year.
Yeah, minimal time. Well, you can go to different states. So I'm 10 years older than you, and I've thought about it more like what it actually looks like in the last 2 years than all of the years combined. And I've expressed to you that my intention really isn't to retire because I really enjoy what I do. But the reality is everybody has a date that you're forced to. I mean, if you say you're going to work forever, the likelihood of actually working forever, probably not.
Maybe not.
Maybe. It's not likely.
Hey, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger worked forever.
They do. And so it could maybe happen, but there's a large percentage of the population that, something physical happens, something mental happens, like they just can't do it. Or they're at a job where they actually can't work it forever. You're in a job where you do labor for a living, you can't work that job forever.
That's fairly common.
But I think the root of what I want to talk about is that I'm getting older and I think about it more. And what I actually think most about is how many good years do I have left? Like in retirement.
You think about that more than you think about retirement?
Yeah. I think about how many good years I'll have in retirement. Not about
Okay,
retiring.
so that's something I don't think about.
That was what I was asking you the question. Like, yeah, I'm sure you think about retiring, but you don't think about how many good years. And I think it partly has to do with, I've watched people age. I have family members who've aged. And I literally looked at a picture of someone that's 8 years older today. And I'm like, holy crap. I couldn't believe it. They look totally different.
Right. You're almost 50.
They function totally different.
And you're almost 50.
I'm almost 50. So I'm
it's
knocking
kind
on
of
the door.
That's like a big milestone birthday.
So it's not that it's getting serious, but it's like, yeah, I've probably worked I've worked 20 some years, 22 years doing this. Started in 2002, so 22
You
years.
might be beyond the halfway point.
Right. And you think about it differently. So one of the things that a lot of people don't think about it, so they're not prepared. So if you're 60 years old, 62 years old, and you're like, whoa, I work at an employer. They just offered me, a great package. You have to figure out if you're actually prepared to do that, because if you've been preparing for retirement, so I'll throw this example for you to talk about. You have a client you've been working with for 15 years. For all 15 years, we're going to retire at 67. And now they're 61 and they want to retire next year. For some people, that extra 5 years has a massive difference on their retirement. It's 5 years to miss contributions. It's 5 years of less growth in the market. So
and 5 more years of taking money out.
5 more years of taking money out, all those different things. And sometimes, even though people think they're prepared, it comes as a surprise whether they can do it or not.
Well, and some of the big differences, if that was the situation, your budget, your spending is going to become a lot more important from the perspective of that may very well work. I'm not saying it doesn't work for people, but you might not have the same flexibility as far as how much money you want to spend, right? Like stop working 5 years earlier. It may be possible, but I'm sure what wouldn't be the same as your maximum amount of money that you could spend throughout the retirement, but that might not even matter to somebody.
Well, it begs the question, is it about maximizing all the way through retirement, or is it maximizing those very best years?
For most people, once they go through the process and kind of think about it, they're more concerned about maximizing the good years they have left than maximizing spending for the next 30 years. No one, honestly, I've asked a lot of people this question. Do you know many people in their 80s, or do you think you're going to be spending a lot of money when you're 80 years old? And no one ever answers, oh, yeah, for sure. Most people go, yeah, I know my grandma or my parent, depending on their age, They don't spend any money. They don't do anything.
Well, and it's a function of how the financial plan is actually created and what the expectations are. Because the original expectation when you did a financial plan was you just ask, how much money do you want to have in retirement each month to spend? And what most people are thinking about is, I'm retiring at 64 years old. I need this much money that year. And it includes their vacations and their trips and all this other stuff. I had a family in the other day. They spend about $18,000 a month. That's what they spend. And they make enough money to do that. It's not really a big deal. And I just asked them, I said, do you believe in 20 years you're still going to be spending $18,000 a month indexed for inflation? And their answer was no. It was unequivocally no. We will not be spending that. So I said, how about we rethink how or what categories we spend in retirement? Think about, hey, what do we need to survive and live a good life for the next 30 years till we pass away? What's that number? Then what are all the things we want to do? And let's assign a timeline to them. So we're really beefing up the front end of retirement when we actually can spend the money or have the energy to spend the money. And then 3, if we could do both of those things, what are the wishes? What are the things we wish we could do, but we're not sure if we can? When you start to prioritize the spending, it's almost like our buckets where we give responsibilities to money. We have liquid money, income, growth, legacy. Well, that's the same way. What do we need? What do we want? What are our wishes? When you do that, you really start to dial these things in. You did one for someone the other day. They had, 20 things on there they planned on doing, and we assigned money to each one of those things. But if we would have lumped it all in to spend that amount of money for the duration of 30 years, it never would work for those individuals.
No, that wouldn't work. But when it's scheduled out and it's reasonable, you can make it work.
So if you're faced with the challenge of, should I retire early? Should I take this package? Or maybe you have a health event. One of the things you can do is spend a lot of time really dialing in your financial plan and spending more time on it to figure out if it really works. And I think that requires having, just a really good reflection and understanding of what you're probably going to do. We all think we're going to be healthy forever. The reality is that's not the case for most people. It doesn't mean you become unhealthy, it just means the body moves differently. I had a family practice physician in the office about 3 weeks ago, and every time I meet a doctor, I ask people this question. What age do you think the human body starts to change? Like really change, where people get to the point where their mobility changes a lot?
What's the answer?
72 to 74. Consensus. Every single one I ask, it's 72 to 74. Yeah. And then I
usually tell people 75. Obviously, the doctor would know way better than me, right?
Yeah,
Mine's more just...
It doesn't mean they can't do things, but it means, oh, wait, like you have that hip problem you can't get rid of. Or it's hard to get up and down because you haven't controlled your weight for the last 30 years. Like those things that make it difficult to become really mobile, which then ends up causing you to spend less money. Think about this. You're a golfer. You golf 18 holes 3 times a week. What's that cost? $200 at least?
Sure. Yeah.
A time? Well, $60 around, a couple of beers, whatever. Let's call it $200 for the week. Well, if you can't walk very good, how many times are you going to golf 18 holes?
No, you go out and play 6.
It's going to be $50 a week. You didn't mean to spend less, but you just did. And I think, part of having retirement is just having no regrets about it. I think that should be the key for people is how do I retire and not have any regrets that are out there. And I think a lot of people do have regrets about retirement, whether it's they didn't do what they wanted to do because they were paralyzed by the money decisions, or they wish they would have worked longer.
Do you think people just in general regret getting old?
I do.
It is not for the birds.
I do.
Or it's not for the faint of heart. Yeah.
I watch active people that just their body changes. It's not, you can't help the memory. I think it's more of the mobility stuff. Watching people struggle to get around.
It is. I slept wrong the other day and my back hurt for 2 days.
I have someone I
And
know.
I'm only I'm going to be 35. So how, actually, I asked my dad this. My dad's getting close to 60, and I asked him, so like at your age, are you just so used to hurting that it just doesn't even bother you anymore? He goes, yeah, that's pretty much what happens. You just get used to being in pain all the time.
All right. I had someone tell me one time, I think they're about 70, and they're like, well, this is what it's like to get up when you're 70. Feels like you played a high school football game yesterday.
Just to get up.
Just to get up and get out of bed. They're like, oh, it's the aches and pains to get out of bed. That's a really good question. All right, Elias, kind of switching gears a little bit, but still on our retirement kick. We had a quick listener question, and you're going to love it. You ready?
Let me hear it.
Pretty simple. I'm retiring with $400,000. Am I in good shape? And I know it's vague, but for the listeners out there, people watching the show, let's talk a little bit about what having $400,000 means for retirement, one. And then two, is it enough? How you determine if it's enough?
Good question. Is that what you have? Are there going to be, probably going to have Social Security, right? Do you have any pensions? So I mean, good shape, you very well could be in good shape and be fine. Now, if 400,000 is what you have and no other income sources, being in good shape is relative to how much of that money you want to spend and how long you want it to last.
Yeah, I think the old adage here is it's not about the nest egg. It's about what you need to survive. And then you kind of work the numbers backwards.
Yeah.
Right? For some people, they might not need anything. They might have worked at a school for 40 years. They've got a $4,000 a month pension. They get $2,000 from IPERS, or $4,000 from IPERS, $2,000 from Social Security. Husband has a pension check for $4,000. He has a $2,000 Social Security. You might not need anything. So
I mean, we have plenty of clients that they don't spend their retirement savings. They have no debt and they just live off their Social Security.
A lot of people, and most of those people, though, they have some type of a pension.
Yeah,
most of the people that don't touch this have some type of a pension, or as we talked about earlier, they got a package where they had X amount of dollars for a couple of years to let this grow.
Right. I can think of a couple people right off the top of my head, though, that don't have pension. They also have no debt, and they have pretty modest lifestyle. So the only thing they take out is their required distributions, and other than that, they live on Social Security check, and they're able to have the life that they want to have with that. So I could argue they don't need any of their savings. I mean, obviously they like to have it. I don't know many people that if you got $1 million, you go, man, I really just wish I had $0 instead of $1 million. I don't really think that that's how that works, but there's people out there that do it.
I think that's part of the financial planning process is figuring out, one, what kind of lifestyle you want to live. Two, figuring out your guaranteed income sources. And then backing into how much you need to save on a regular and consistent basis to accumulate the appropriate nest egg that you need. If you do it any other way, you're letting your nest egg and your income sources dictate your retirement versus you being in charge of it.
That's deep.
I mean, if you're 40 years old, you're in charge of it. We mentioned on the show not too long ago, if you're 40 and can't save up $1 million, that's on you. What is it, $1,600 a month or something?
I don't remember the numbers, but
it's not that much.
Yeah.
If with the 401k match, like if you can't be a millionaire, it's kind of on you if you're 40 years old and listening to the show. But ultimately, if you're making a lot more money, $1 million might not be enough. Was it you that told me the other day $1 million's not what $1 million used to be?
well, I know Yogi Berra once said a nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. I read that was on what was that on?
That's
deep.
Our
client, yeah, like our client portal that we use, Wealthbox. The other day there was a Yogi Berra quote and it said a nickel ain't worth a dime anymore when I was logging into the thing. So there you go. Yeah. $1 million is not what it used to be.
I saw a TikTok the other day, and the guy pulled out $1,000 out of a safety deposit box. He's like, I put it in here in 2009. It's still worth $1,000. But $1,000 isn't what it used to be either.
It's not what it. Yeah, technically, it's not worth what it was
Yeah.
in 2009.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That was kind of the point of the. That was kind of the point of the TikTok.
of his TikTok.
Yeah, it's like, well, great, you did this, but that's awesome. You put it in a safety deposit box. It was super safe, but it's worth half as much money today.
Pretty much. Thank you, inflation.
Inflation's everybody's favorite thing. All right, so to close out the show, Elias, I read the Wall Street Journal pretty frequently, but they had a section called "What's the Best Thing About Retirement?"
Okay.
answered by Wall Street Journal readers. So
Can I guess?
I want you to guess, and then I'll do guess, because I guarantee you there's at least one of these that you're not going to think about.
I think people's favorite thing based on...
Did you read the article?
No.
Okay, so you're just guessing. Okay. Favorite
I'm
thing about
just
retirement.
guessing. Favorite things. But this is what people wrote in, right?
Yeah, this is what they wrote in.
Yeah. So favorite things about retirement has to be around people's time. I think in general, some of the things I hear from... Well, okay, there's a few retired folks I work with, like they like to joke around with me about how every day's Saturday. Like there's this one guy I call on the phone. He goes, "Hey, do you know what day it is?" Almost every time I talk to him, and he'll say something like, "I don't keep track of the days, so whenever you call me, I just see what day it is because I know you know." Because he's just rubbing my nose in it that I have to work every day, so of course I know what day it is, right? So it's something people's favorite thing have to be around just their autonomy and their time, I would think.
Okay, so I would say out of these answers, 3 of them relate to that. So I like this one. Mary from Belmont, North Carolina. My 2-hour morning coffee in my favorite chair, reading news with the dogs on my lap. Her favorite thing about retirement's chair time.
Yeah,
That's
why wouldn't it be?
And then this one I thought was really good too. No plans, no worries. This from John in Hinsdale, Illinois. Just no plans, no worries. Just go easy breezy.
Maybe that's too. Do you think that's too simple for some people?
Well,
You think we're so busy in our lives that maybe it's challenging to just like enjoy not being busy?
Yeah, well, we don't have a choice. You've got young kids. I have young kids. It's probably why I enjoy deer camp and you enjoy deer camp. Or I enjoy when I go fishing. Because I can't be
Because
busy.
my family's not there?
No.
Just kidding. There's
no time restraint.
There's no time. There's nothing. I mean, there is a task to do, but it's if I don't want to, I can just sit in the shed too.
There you go. It's probably why, because there's nothing about that makes you feel busy unless you want to be. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to go walk here and here. If you want to just chill and drink coffee for 3 hours in the morning, you can.
You can turn it on and off as much as you want throughout the 5 days
and
or
most
whatever it
people
is.
need outlets like that. Like they need a way to be not busy. Otherwise, you will be busy all the time. Here's what resonates with me about a lot of these answers. If you would have, my guess or perception is, if I were to ask pre-retirees, so let's say people 50 to 60, what do you think you're going to like best about retirement? A lot of their answers are going to revolve around experiences. Being able to travel.
I would agree with that.
Being able to golf, being able to fish, whatever it is. On here, none of them are about experiences. What my perception of what I'm looking forward to doing in retirement. If you ask my wife, it's traveling. That's not on the list. Here's my favorite one. Sleep in sync.
Sleep in sync?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
He just live in sync with his personal time clock. He sleeps when he wants.
It's like a dog.
Yeah. He sleeps. It turns out my optimal sleep pattern is 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. He can sleep when he wants because he doesn't have a job to get at. He doesn't have kids to take care of. He can choose to sleep when he wants. And this resonates with me because Megan's uncle, this is exactly what he does. Like if I walked you through his schedule, you'd be like, that's bananas. But it's how he lives his life. And he can because, well, he's semi-retired kind of. Takes a nap from 5 to 8 o'clock at night. He takes a nap from 5 to 8 o'clock at night. Then he goes out of the town for a while, watches a show. He goes to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, wakes up at 9 and does a little work and takes a nap in the afternoon. But this individual enjoyed sleep the most because they can sleep when they want versus, well, you have a job, you have to be up at 6 a.m. and you have to go to bed at 10, whether that works for you or not. I thought that was an interesting one. Another one that a lot of people thought was the best thing about retirement was become a servant to their community. I thought that was an interesting one. Just donating their time and being involved. And I think it actually lends itself to what we talk with people about going into retirement. What are you going to do? And volunteering becomes something a lot of people do to take up the time, but have a sense of community and a sense of accomplishment and feel important.
Yeah. And I think people feel good when they give back to the community through their time and their efforts, right? Feels good. It's good use of your time. Hopefully you can help a good cause. I mean, there's a lot of positive about doing that.
So Elias, I think as people go into the end of the year, a couple of takeaways from this show is, if you're thinking about retiring early without regret and trying to enjoy retirement the best you can, it makes sense to have a plan, make sure it fits your lifestyle, not only a plan for your money, but a plan for your personal enjoyment and what you're going to do with your time.
I like all those ideas.
With that said, I want to thank everybody for listening to today's show. If you enjoy our content, make sure to follow us on social, Facebook, X, YouTube, anything else that we're on, Instagram, I think.
All socials.
All social. Appreciate you listening. Hope you tune in next time.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure profit or protect against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.